Hey guys, Zack here. Happy Thanksgiving before we get into this video. Thanksgiving is definitely one of my favorite holidays. It's no Halloween, but honestly, I don't think any holiday will be as cool as Halloween. But that's just me. You know, you can't go wrong with the spooky season. But regardless, happy Thanksgiving. Christmas is just around the corner, so get get ready to hear a lot of Christmas music, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, anyway, welcome back to another action figure review. And today we'll be taking a look at the SH Monsterarts Godzilla 1989, or as other people like to call him, Bio Goji. Now, this version of Godzilla comes from the 1989 film Godzilla vs. Biollante, which is honestly one of my favorite movies. I really like it. When I was younger, I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie, but in recent years, I definitely started to warm up to this movie. I will say this, though. I think the soundtrack is a little out of place. Don't get me wrong, I still really like the soundtrack. In fact, BioWars is an absolute banger of a track, but I don't know, it just doesn't really fit a Godzilla movie to me. Like, that's something something I'd hear from, like, an 80s anime, or even, like, something Sonic related, but definitely not Godzilla. But, with that said, Godzilla vs. Biollante is still one of my favorites, definitely in my top 10 as far as Godzilla movies go, so if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. Unfortunately, the Blu-ray is like $250, and this movie is not available to like stream anywhere, which is pretty unfortunate. I don't know how much the DVD is, but I'm sure that's pretty cheap, so definitely, I guess, track that down if you can. But regardless, it's not really easy to find this movie, but if you do find it, or if you do have it, definitely give it a watch, because, like I said, it's one of my favorites. So, yeah. Anyway, with that said, let's just get right into this review. Of course, to start this review, we'll be taking a look at the painting on this figure, and the painting on this figure is actually very nice, so let's take a closer look. So, of course, most of the body here, actually the entirety of the body, is this really nice charcoal black with very nice hints of blue, which I think really adds to this figure, really makes the detailing pop, so I like that a lot. And of course, the dorsal plates here are painted a nice grayish color with some really nice airbrushing in the center here. The painting on the dorsal plates look really nice, and then you just get that all the way down, which I think looks nice. I will say this, there is a little bit of an inconsistency here. The dorsal plates here aren't really the same shade as gray, or the same shade of gray as the rest of the dorsal plates, but overall, I think the painting on the dorsal plates look very nice. On the back of his head, I will admit they look a little sloppy. I don't know if you can see that on camera, like there. It looks a little sloppy, but honestly, that's pretty covered up, so it's not the end of the world. His toenails are painted a brownish tannish color, which I think looks nice, and they are airbrushed on because you can tell there is a little bit of black that sort of bleeds into the toenail, but honestly, I actually really like how that looks. I think that looks really nice. And the fingernails are painted the same color, but they're not really airbrushed or shaded or anything like that. They're just kind of slapped on there, which I think looks kind of, not the best, but it's not terrible. I'm fine with it. And of course, going to the head here, we can see that the eyes are painted brown with black pupils. The teeth are painted a nice brownish color with a little bit of like a reddish hue to them, which I think looks nice. And the painting on the inside of the mouth, or in the inside of the mouth, I should say, is painted like a reddish pinkish color with a very nice glossy finish, which I think looks really nice. And that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. Some very minor things I would have done differently, like with the fingernails, and I would have touched up the dorsal plates here, but overall, I think the painting on this figure is very solid, so the painting here definitely gets a pass. Now we'll be taking a look at the articulation, and the articulation on this figure is very good. As far as Monsterarts figures go, it's not the best, but overall I think the articulation here is very good. So let's take a closer look. So of course the mouth can close and open. It's on a ball joint, so you can do some pretty... It's kind of limited, but you can do some stuff with it if you really wanted to. Maybe like, something like that. You can make them look a little goofy if you so desire. There's a ball joint here. There's a ball joint here, kind of limited, but there is a ball joint. And there is a ball joint here, very tight though, but there is a ball joint. And that's all this figure is. It's just ball joints. The shoulder here is on a ball joint. There's a bend at the elbow here, and a ball joint on the wrist. On mine, for some reason, this arm is very stiff, and whenever you move it, it makes like a squeaking sound. So I don't really mess with that arm too much, because I'm always afraid I'm going to break it. So, yeah. I don't know if anyone who collects SH Monster Arts figures out there knows what to do about this issue. Please let me know, because I don't want to break this figure. This figure is very, very expensive, but I'll talk about that more later. It looks like we have joints for like an ab crunch, but it doesn't really seem to want to happen, and I don't want to force it. So, yeah, there's that. The thighs here are on ball joints, and there's a bend at the knee. And the ankles are on ball joints as well. Now, the tail is mostly ball joints. There's a ball joint right there, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. My arms are getting tired. Ball joint there, ball joint there, ball joint there, and yeah, that is pretty much it for the articulation. And the articulation on this figure is very good. I like it a lot. It would have been nice if there's an ab crunch, but other than that, the articulation is very good on this figure. Also, that's another thing. In the movie, Godzilla sort of had his hands very close to his chest. You can't really do that with this figure. I mean, you can get it like that, which is close enough, but if they could just make the arms go a little closer, that would have looked really nice. But overall, other than that though, the articulation on this figure is very good. So the articulation definitely gets a pass. Now we're going to take a look at the sculpt, and the sculpting on this figure is almost perfect. The guy who sculpted this figure, Yuji Sakai, he's pretty much known for sculpting the Godzilla 1989 suit, so of course sculpting this figure is something that, he'd be pretty much perfect for. And to be fair, he is, because the sculpting on this figure is incredible. In fact, I will go as far as to say that it feels like there's a tiny man dressed up as Godzilla on my desk. That is a sentence I didn't think I'd ever say in my life, but here we are. But my point here is that the sculpting on this figure is almost perfect. Almost perfect. There's just one thing, one very little nitpick I have with the sculpting on this figure, and that's the bottom jaw. For some reason, they decided to give his bottom jaw this little bit of a bend, which doesn't look too bad with his mouth open, but with his mouth closed, it looks a little weird. Now, in the movie, his bottom jaw was definitely more, it wasn't curved like that, it was more straight. So if it was straight, I think it would have looked a lot nicer, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. The rest of the sculpting on this figure is pretty much perfect. I like it a lot. So the sculpting on this figure definitely gets a pass. Now we'll be taking a look at the detailing, and the detailing on this figure is godlike. So let's take a closer look. So going to the head here, we can see all of the bits of scaling throughout the face here and the neck, which is detailed beautifully. The defining here is absolutely incredible. And even on his chest, just a lot of really nice scaling here. And it all just looks phenomenal. I love the creases here. To really give it that rubber suit effect, I think that's great. Going to the legs, again, very, very bulky, very thick, but, the scaling here is very nicely defined. And overall, it just looks really, really good, especially the feet here. Again, just looks great. The dorsal plates are also detailed very nicely. A lot of nice defining here, which I think looks really great. And then of course this nice detailing, in the tail, all the scaling, and all the smaller dorsal plates and everything like that. The detailing here is just phenomenal. It just keeps going on and on, all the way to the end there, which looks great. And the detailing on the underside of the tail, again, just looks amazing. All the bits of creasing and everything like that just looks very nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. And the detailing on this figure is perfect. I love it a lot, so the detailing definitely gets a pass. Now we'll do the size comparisons. So on screen right off the bat, we have all my other Godzilla 1989 figures. We have the NECA Godzilla 1989. We have the little 65th anniversary Godzilla 1989 figure, or Bio Goji, whatever you want to call him. And the only figure of Biolante I have here is the Bandai Movie Monster Series Biolante, the 2017 version of this figure. It'd be nice if they made another Biolante figure in a much bigger scale, you know, that's affordable, because the SH Monsterarts Biolante, like, what is that? What is that? That is ridiculous, but that's a whole other story. And of course, like usual, here's some hand sanitizer. And here is Dr. Billy Grant. So at the end of the day, should you get this figure? I want to say yes. The painting on this figure is fantastic. The articulation is great. The sculpting, the detailing, almost perfect, you know. Well, the detailing is perfect. I don't like the jaw on this figure, but overall, this is a fantastic figure, and I love it to bits. Definitely one of my favorite Godzilla figures now. But I will say this. I think the price tag of this figure is a little unfair. This figure retails for, on certain websites, it retails for like $95. And I got this guy from Awesome Collector, which had him for like only $90. But that's still a lot of money for this figure. There are no accessories to speak of, so it's just kind of ridiculous to me that they charge like $90+ for this figure. Keep in mind, the original SH Monsterarts Godzilla 2019 figure, that figure came with 2 different accessories and was only $70. You know, I mean, that's still a little overpriced, but at the same time, like, it came with accessories and it was cheaper than this. This guy has no accessories and he's more expensive somehow, which I don't get. Honestly, I think if you're going to make an SH Monsterarts Godzilla figure that has no accessories or anything like that, I think at most it should be like at least between $50 to $60, not $90. Like, the price for this figure is a little absurd, but other than that, though, it is a fantastic figure, and I definitely think you should get it. If you can buy them for cheaper than $95, I'd say, like, if you can get them, if you can somehow get them for like $70 or even like $75, then I'd say go for it. I mean, that's kind of pushing it, but I think that's probably the cheapest you're going to get. But at the same, I'm not a fan of the price tag, but overall, I still think that this is an incredible figure. And if you have the money, I'd say get it. Especially if you really like, you know, Godzilla vs. Biolante, like I do. It's not my favorite Godzilla movie, but it's still a movie I like a lot, and I really like Godzilla's design in that movie. So, overall, the SH Monsterarts Godzilla 1989, or Bio Goju, whatever you want to call him, this figure is fantastic, and I highly recommend that you get him, despite that price tag. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Zack out.